Hello, everybody. My name is Jude Cornett, and I'm here to bring to you today my Proquest winning Enigma list. So I went to two Proquests recently, uh, one uh, both of this deck, one at Gongai Games in Portland, Oregon, and one at Mox Valley Games in Springfield, Oregon. And I top aided the first one, and I was able to win the second one playing Count Your Blessings Enigma. Um, and so um, if all you're looking for is the list, that'll be in the link in the description of this video. But I was going to talk about the list, talk about some matchups that I had throughout the day, talk about why this deck might be good or bad for your local meta, and talk about kind of how I got to this list that I have today. So first of all, the question is why would we play Count Your Blessings Enigma over Standard Enigma? And the answer is Enigma has always preyed on really slow decks. Enigma has always been really, it's kind of the Enigma check. The reason why a deck like Teklevossen or Guardians aren't very good in the meta right now is basically because of Enigma. Enigma can present a lot of ward, and if you're not able to deal with the ward because you're a slower deck, Enigma will snowball the game and you'll lose. Um, However, where Enigma can sometimes struggle is into more aggressive matchups. And so that's where Count Your Blessings and the cards that you go with Count Your Blessings, notably Phantasmal Footsteps, Oasis Respite, and Waning Vengeance come in. So into most decks that are more aggressive, traditionally Enigma's ward is very easily cleared, and so you often aren't able to get the high value lines that you do in standard Enigma, where you might get out a Waxing Spectre, you might get out a Spectral with several counters and keep it for turn after turn after turn and get a lot of value out of it, and then it also prevents you from taking life. And so in Count Your Blessings Enigma, your overall goal is to block, gain life with Count Your Blessings, and then block some more. And so in the two programs that I went to, I played against a total of 4 Azaleas and 5 Auroras, and I was able to fatigue all 9 of them. And the way you do that is with a combination of different cards. Notably, it's a lot of cards that block 3, but additionally, you have some cards that block 4, like Sink Below, some cards that prevent 4, like Oasis Respite, some cards that effectively prevent 4, like Waning Vengeance, and Phantasmal Footsteps, which is an excellent card in this style of deck. And so, in general, you're going to be blocking with most of your cards, and then additionally, you're also going to be pitching a card to either block with Footsteps and play Count Your Blessings, pitch to Arcane Barrier, and then play an Oasis Respite and block with your Phantasmal Footsteps, etc. And so, with that very powerful defensive tools and Count Your Blessings, you're very easily able to make it to the end game. However, with the exception of like Waning Vengeance and Phantasmal Footsteps, most of these cards are generics. So why are we playing Enigma to get to the end game rather than other heroes? And the reason for that is pretty interesting, and it has to do with how Enigma fundamentally works. So Enigma is really good in the end game because her hero ability says you can pay 3 blue chi resources, or you can pitch a chi card, and you can create a Spectral Shield token. And what that means is that it's once per turn, but if you pitch a chi on your opponent's turn, pitch a chi on your turn, swing with both Spectrals, and then block with Phantasmal Footsteps, pitching Heart of Fiandal, you're able to attack for 2 with one Spectral, attack for 2 with the second Spectral, block for 1 with Phantasmal Footsteps, gain 1 off of Heart of Fiandal if you have less life. If you have more life, you're probably winning anyway. And then also ward 2 with both of the Spectrals, which means that Enigma is able to get 8 value out of her deck, 4 offensively and 4 defensively, without spending any cards out of her deck every turn cycle. And with the exception of a few heroes, 4 output defensively is more than any other hero can do. And 4 defensively and 4 offensively is definitely more than what any hero can do. So, for example, if you were playing against a Guardian that was running a Nothos could attack for more than the amount that you could prevent each turn, as well as break your Phantasmal Footsteps, but that's a whole other issue. But um, generally, if you're able to keep even a couple 3 blocks in your deck, you're able to go block 6 on your Nothos, and then build up a large enough board of Spectrals where you're just able to tempo them down. Because eventually, once you have 3 or 4 Spectral shields, they're not going to be able to block everything. And so for that reason, Enigma has one of the best endgames in Flesh and Blood right now. The other reason for that is Cosmic Awakening. Cosmic Awakening is a 9 pitch, and if you pitch 1 chi to it, it's a 10. If you pitch 2 chis, it's a 15, and if you pitch 3 chis, it's a 20. So one card out of deck, because the chis that you're pitching are just going back into your deck, allowing you to get 20 damage is very good. Especially if some games you won't be able to transcend early with Reserve Tradition, and so what you'll do is you'll play Cosmic Awakening, then bottom it with Reserve Tradition, and you'll be able to play 4 Cosmic Awakenings in one game. And so basically, the idea with this deck is you're taking your matchups that were traditionally not very good for Enigma, your aggressive matchups, and you're shoring them up by playing all of this life gain and defensive cards. And then additionally, you still have the powerful Enigma loop of powerful ward effects for your for your slower matchups, where you can still win against these slower matchups because of how good your fatigue endgame is. And so where the deck came from, I heavily modeled my Proquest winning list off of Jacob Clements' Calling Leon top 4 list. He was playing some different cards from me, but he was overall on a very similar list to mine. I made some changes for my Proquest winning list, and then I also made some changes from my list that I took to my first Proquest on Saturday to get to this final list. And then Rhea Adams and Jacob Clements made a really good video about this deck. I'll link that in the description as well if you want to watch it. It was pretty funny, so I recommend it. But first, I'm going to get into my matchup spread for my 2 Proquests. So first, for my first Proquest, I went to Ganga Games on Saturday. This was the hero breakdown. Let me see if I can make that a little bit bigger. Oh, let's see. So we had 5 Viserai, 4 Aurora, 3 Azalea, 2 Enigma, one of which was me. Verdance, Kano, Dash-IO, Dash, Nu, KO, some less represented decks. And so my matchups for the first day, round 1, I paired against an Azalea, exactly what I wanted to play against. My opponent ran a little, their deck wasn't exactly working the way they wanted it to. 6 cards in a row, they went without seeing an arrow, so that's the other really powerful thing about Count Your Blessings. If your opponent stumbles just 1 or 2 turns, a lot of the time it feels like the game is immediately over. I won my first match. My second match, I paired into a Viserai. Viserai is another matchup that's very good because you have so many blues in your deck, it's really easy for you to pitch to Arcane Barrier. And then additionally, Phantasmal, they were on Nebula Blade rather than Reaping Blade. Reaping Blade can be kind of a hassle because Reaping Blade inhibits your ability to gain life. But since they're on Nebula Blade, and Nebula Blade interacts very favorably with Enigma, because with Phantasmal Footsteps and with Spectrals, it's very easy for you to cover up that breakpoint as well as all the defense reactions that you run in your deck. So I won that game. Round 3, I played against the only other Enigma in the room, my buddy Archer. He stomped me. It was not close. His some cards that he was playing in his deck actually informed some changes that I made for my deck for the following day. Part of what I found was that 10,000 Year Reunion in a deck that isn't able to play it as an instant, 10,000 Year Reunion is a lot worse because you're not able to play it and then swing with it in the same turn, and that's a lot of the time when 10,000 Year Reunion is able to swing games in your favor. So I'm 2-1. I needed to win the next couple to make top cut. Round 4, I played against another Azalea. We got deck checked that round, and unfortunately they got an IP2. I don't think it would have affected the result of the game. I was still felt like I was pretty ahead most of the game, as where a couple extra cards wouldn't have affected it, but who knows. I ended up winning that one, and then last round I played against the third Azalea, the only Azalea that I had not played against in the tournament so far, and we played it was not a particularly close game. They didn't stumble per se, but they didn't have any crazy powerful turns, and count your blessings overall is just it's a very consistent strategy, and so your opponent really needs to be going above and beyond in terms of power level in order to push past it. So I made it into top eight as third seed, I believe. And then the first round of top eight, I played against the same Azalea that I played against in round five. So it was a direct rematch. That game was actually quite a bit closer. At one point, it was something like 16 to 40, which generally they'll be at 40 because you don't really want to attack them that much, and you're not going to be able to attack them that much very often. But uh, I was I didn't see a lot of count your blessings early, and so I had a turn where I had Tunic up, I drew two of them, and then I go pitch a blue, play one, Tunic, play another, and I gained like 16 life in one turn cycle, and from there it was kind of out of reach. And then in top four, I played against Archer again on Enigma. That game I put up a little bit more of a fight. I had a good Sacred Art, Mirror Guy, levels all three modes turn. But unfortunately didn't draw a ton off levels. He had the mirror guy block with Traverse and then was able to win the game from there. So only top four, didn't break into the finals, but was still relatively happy with my performance. And then I had another Proquest the following day at Mox Valley. Um, a couple differences that I made for my deck in between the Saturday and the Sunday. I ended up cutting my three 10,000 year unions, and I also ended up cutting three Enlightened Strike, and I put in three The Weakest Link, and I also put in three Spheres of Surreality. Spheres of Surreality was a card that Archer was running against me. It seems very good in the mirror, and it also seems especially good if you're running Phantasmal Footsteps in your deck, because generally the cost of something like this is that if your opponent has a popper, it completely ends your turn. It's still pretty good if they have a popper. I had a game the following day where I played this, they popped it, and then had I spent the additional resource, I wouldn't have been able to do what I wanted to do anyway. So it basically ended my turn regardless. But in the Illusionist Mirror, they're not going to be able to pop you as much, etc. And then the Weakest Link, there was a lot of Auroras in the room, and almost all of the Auroras on the Saturday did well, and I knew a lot of them were going to be there on the Sunday. So I thought the Weakest Link also is a pretty good card in the Enigma Mirror. It pops Phantasmaclasm, it pops Miraging Metamorph, it pops their Spears of Surreality, and then additionally, the big pivot turns in the mirror in the Enigma Mirror a lot of the time is something like I block with Traverse, I put up enough ward where I can clear your board, and then I hit you with the Weakest Link or Command and Conquer. Um, so I think Spheres of Surreality could definitely be Enlightened Strike instead, but I thought Weakest Link or Spheres of Surreality with specifically Weakest Link and Command and Conquer is a really strong three-card play, so I wanted to try that out as well. My matchup spread, I don't actually have the hero breakdown for the Proquest on Sunday. It was a little bit smaller. The one on Saturday was 28 players. The one on Sunday was 21 or 22. I don't remember. Um, but um, from what I remember, there was a decent numbers of new KO and then Aurora and Azalea again. Um, Round one, I played the Enigma Mirror, the exact matchup I didn't want to play. It was a really weird game because remembering it after the fact, uh, it seemed like everything was going very well for my opponent, but I somehow squeaked it out. It was something like turn zero, they double transcended, played Mirror Guy, and then played 10k out, removing three counters from the Mirror Guy. And then they kept Mirror Guy, or not Mirror Guy, but they kept 10k for like 4 or 5 turns. Um, and then eventually the big turning point in the game was I set up Sacred Art, uh, which gave me a big board that they had to clear. So they blocked with Traverse. Traverse gave them a board that was able to clear my Sacred Art. On my turn, I drew a very poor hand that even if I had blocked with Traverse, would not be able to clear their board. So instead, I try to mitigate as much damage as I can, and I set up my one of Truce in my deck. Um, on my opponent's following turn, they attack me for more damage. I draw a card off Truce, I block with Traverse, I draw an additional card off Traverse, and then I set up a big enough board where I'm able to clear their entire board. Uh, and then I have a Mirror Guy out. At this point, neither player has Traverse, and I have enough defensive tools in my deck where I'm able to keep Mirror Guy for, I think, 6 or 7 turns. Eventually putting an Astral Etchings on it, making it so that every swing was coming in for 14, and I won the game. So 1-0. Round two, I played against a new. My new opponent was going for a very reactive approach. I think they knew that I was on Count Your Blessings, but I don't think they'd played the matchup before. They were very aggressively daggering. They were on Mistblade, Scale Peeler, and Vambrace. Personally, I think that running double Piercing Dagger is actually pretty good into CYB Enigma because it makes Phantasmal Footsteps very difficult to block with. And blocking with Phantasmal Footsteps is a big part of how you don't take chip damage throughout the game. And so I think in theory, the Enigma CYB matchup is very interesting. However, in my I played a second game, a little bit of spoilers there. But in theory, what happens is you get to an endgame state where you have to soften them up with Cosmic Awakening, and then you ideally want to be getting to your endgame setup where you're just pitching a blue to Enigma on their turn, pitching another chi to Enigma on your own turn, and then uh, trying to lock them out with spectrals. But in my game, what happened was I had a very strong second cycle hand that involved Rage Spectre, Sacred Art, and two other blues. So I was able to go play Rage Spectre, regain my action point, play Sacred Art, put counters onto my Rage Spectre, and then set up a board state that they weren't able to clear um, with a bunch of auras and then a CNC to follow up a couple turns in a row. And then, so I was 2-0. Round 3, I played against Aurora. My opponent had a really unfortunate hand where they just didn't present a lot of damage. I threw a weakest link at them, and they had a hand that I believe was Electromagnetic Somersault, Poison the Well, and Lightning Press. And so they, to deny me an arsenal because I have a lot of cards that are very good defensively, they chose to empty their hand of instants, but that meant that their 1-0 Poison Well, they weren't able to get off against me, and I was able to gain enough life that they weren't able to kill me. The next round I played against Justin Salmon, probably one of the best players in Oregon. Definitely, he top 64 Pro Tour LA, if I remember, and he's also going to Worlds in a couple weeks. He was playing Aurora as well. Played a super tight game. He was running 2 Poison the Well against me and no Gravekeeping. He was also running the Crown Dominion Aether Ironweave package for Arc Lightning Flicker Wisp. It was a very good game for him. He pitch stacked a Flicker Wisp and Arc Lightning early in the game, and then he got the other 2 off naturally. And he drew something crazy like 6 cards off of his 3 Channel Lightning Valleys. The key point in the game was where he plays his last Flicker Wisp and Arc Lightning. And I am down to 3 life or 4 life, something like that, with one card in hand and 2 resources floating. It's the last Count Your Blessings in my deck, which means that if I resolve it, I gain 11 life. However, I also know that he has a Poison the Well in his hand, because he pitched it 15-ish turns ago with his other cards. However, I also have an Amulet of Echoes in the arena, and he returned a Flittering Charge to his hand using an Electromagnetic Somersault, which means that if he plays the Flittering Charge, I can activate Amulet of Echoes. If he plays the Poison Well in response, I can then respond to that with my last CYB, gaining 11 and getting out of the danger zone. And then if he just sandbags the CYB, or if he just sandbags the Poison the Well, I can arsenal the Count Your Blessings. I have 1 Sigil of Solace that I'm drawing in 2 turns. And what I can do, I have a couple different options. If I play Sigil of Solace and he doesn't Poison the Well, I'm at 6 life. I have plenty of life. He's not going to be able to kill me. Or I think I would be at even more. If I Sigil of Solace and then he Poison the Wells, I can Count Your Blessings in response, and then gain 11. Then I'll lose 3 from the Sigil because of the Poison the Well, but I'll still be outside of kill range. And so he ends up playing as if I don't have it, which I think is the correct play because it outputs the most damage. And if he plays as though I do have it, he's still under quite a bit of threat. And then I end up winning that game, so I'm 4-0. I'm locked for first seed at that point, but I play my last round out against Nazalia. Very nice guy. He wasn't on Flicker Wisps into me, which I thought was a little bit interesting, but overall it was just very standard for what I want to do with this deck. Block with Footsteps a lot, block with Vengeance a lot. Into that matchup, you run Calming Gesture so that you have Arcane Barrier 1, and then just play very defensively and fatigue them out in the endgame. So I'm first seed going into top 8. My round 1 of top 8 opponent was against a new. This new player, however, they were previously a Katsu player. They're another one of the very good players in Oregon. Um, their name's Adam. Um, uh, so I'm playing against them, and immediately things are going very poorly for me. I He gets 2 chi out of my deck very early, and in the end game, the more chi in my deck, the better off I am, because it's more chi he has to get through by activating a new to banish them off the top of my deck. Um, he banishes one off of a random banish, I think it was Reserve Tradition, and then he was hitting me with this CNC that I couldn't block out, so I just had to play Drop in the Ocean, or it was a Leave No Witnesses that I couldn't block out. So he forces me to play out my Drop in the Ocean to not have it get banished. Might as well save 1 life. Um, at one point in the game, that was very fortunate for me. Uh, he plays a Weakest Link, and I have 2 Transcend cards in my hand. And I'm like, I've already lost 2 chi out of deck, and I'm trying to think, how can I save this chi in my hand? Because I don't have another way to pitch it. And if he hits me, he'll make me discard 1. And so I'm taking for a really long time, and I eventually decide to go block with Footsteps, which will break because I have a 6. And then in resolution, activate Enigma so that I keep the Spectral. I can swing for 2, and then he has to deal with it the following turn. However, I've been taking for so long that I forgot to break my Footsteps, and the judge didn't notice it until a couple turns later. Very fortunately for me, I didn't block with Footsteps in between then. Otherwise, they probably would have gotten an IP2 or a match loss or something like that. But as it was, it got broken. Um, um, yeah, and this deck's a little bit new to me. I need to be more careful about my triggers in the future. And then to semifinals, I played against the same Aurora that I played in round 5. We had another pretty good game, but in the end, I was not seeing a lot of my Count Your Blessings early, which a lot of the times actually isn't that bad because it means that you can block more efficiently against their early power turns. And he wasn't able to set up anything crazy powerful. Um, and I was able to just play 2 Count Your Blessings a turn, 2 or 3 turns in a row in the end game, and I ended the game at like 40 something life. And then my last round was a rematch against the Aurora that I played against in round 3. They were actually the Aurora that won Gong Guy the day before. Very good player. Um, and their strategy into me, because they were basically like, based on my last game, I don't think that I can just run all gas, no brakes, especially since I knew they were only on 1 Hold the Line in their deck. Or not Hold the Line, Poison the Well. I keep mixing up Dust Till Dawn, Blue Majestics. But bear with me. And so they decided to try and pitch stack triple Flicker Wisp against me. And they have it set up. I actually mess up a little bit on the combo turn. I was playing a little bit too quickly, and I moved to AB both of the ticks of Arcane from the Flicker Wisp and the Arc Lightning, because they had something like CLV out, triple Flicker Wisp, and then Arc Lightning, and then additionally they also had an attack or 2, and then they had Iron Weave and Gold. So they would effectively have access to a 7-card hand on the combo turn, 4 of which would be Arc Lightning and Flicker Wisp. But I had Amulet of Echoes out, which is very good against that style of combo. What I should have done is I should have activated on the second Flicker Wisp, but unfortunately, like not a very smart person, I resolved the Arcane Barrier and then realized priority had gone back to them. So, but I got it on the third one. And they took me from, I was at a pretty high life total. I played all 9 of my Count Your Blessings, but they had still gotten pretty good damage through to me. So I think I was at 47 or something. And they got me all the way down to sub 20, I think, through me blocking with my entire hand and Traverse and ABing with Traverse. They weren't quite able to get there. Additionally, they had already gotten their invite from the day before. So even had I lost, I still would have gotten an invite, but it felt really nice to get a gold foil and additionally qualify for London. So that was my tournament report for the 2 days. Other than that, I'm going to talk very quickly about kind of the macro strategy of Count Your Blessings in general. So I'm 30 something minutes into this video. I haven't said what Count Your Blessings does yet, but it's a 2-cost instant, and it says gain X, where X is 3 plus the number of Count Your Blessings in your graveyard, 2 for the yellow, 1 for the blue. And so normally, you might think this is kind of a joke card, a card LSS doesn't necessarily intend to be very good in competitive play, and you might be right. However, this card has some, once you dig into the math, and Flesh and Blood is inherently a math game, you kind of see some more powerful things that maybe meet the eye. So if you play all 9 Count Your Blessings, you're going to gain a total of 54 life. Um, I I've done the math before. I don't really want to do it again off the top of my head, but um, roughly you gain on average 2 from each Count Your Blessings that you play, because 3 plus 2 plus 1 divided by 3 averages to 2. And then between 0 and 8 additional life, it averages to 4. So you'll gain on average 6 Count Your Blessings per, and 6 times 9 is 54. And so that combined with your Sigil of Solace allows you to gain 63 life, plus Heart of Fiendal, plus Oasis Respite, etc. throughout the course of the game. And eventually keep your life total high enough where you will not die to your opponent's onslaught of attacks. And so, if you look at it on face value, you say, I play Count Your Blessings, I pitch a blue card, I gain 2 plus 4 on average, right? Some of them are going to be way less, some of them are going to be way more. That's just a 2 for 6, right? That's perfectly on rate. However, because this only costs 2 resources, there's some pretty broken things that you can do with it. First of all, you can go Count Your Blessings, block with Footsteps. That's a really easy one. You can go Count Your Blessings, block with, or AB1 with Calming Gesture. That's another easy one. You can go Count Your Blessings, Waning Vengeance. You can go Count Your Blessings, Oasis Respite. Additionally, another thing that you can do, which is very powerful, is if you have Tunic counter up and you have 2 Count Your Blessings and a blue in your hand, you can go Count Your Blessings, Tunic, play another Count Your Blessings, and often gain 15 plus life at that stage of the game. One other thing that's interesting is you can go Count Your Blessings. I've now played a blue. I've now played a blue card, and then any of my many Transcend cards are now online. Generally, the Transcends are not the best in non-arcane matchups when you're trying to be more reactive and just trying to fatigue people because they don't block. But into like Viscerai or Vincent or Florian or something, they're perfectly reasonable because you get them transcended, you get the chi and deck so that you have the good end game, and then additionally you can just pitch them to AB3 and get them into your stack. Other than that, uh, in your sideboard, basically your entire sideboard is these are in the sideboard, but I board them in for most matchups. Basically, your entire sideboard is more cards for the mirror, because the mirror, some decks that prey on this deck, there's 3 main decks in my opinion that prey on Count Your Blessings Enigma. The first, and actually I'd add a fourth one, but there's 3 main decks that I would say prey on Count Your Blessings Enigma. The first one is the mirror standard Enigma, because the entire game plan of standard Enigma is to set up ward, and in general, as a defensive deck, just gaining life is not going to save you against a bunch of ward, because they're just going to keep attacking you and keep attacking you, and they're not going to lose any cards from deck. So what you have to do in that matchup is you just cut all your Count Your Blessings, cut all your Sigil Solaces, put in all of this, and then basically hope that you can either outplay your opponent or that you can get luckier than your opponent. I think there is maybe an argument that you just don't run any mirror tech at all, and you just say the mirror is sacked. But I think with the amount of Enigma there is right now, that's probably not the best decision. And then additionally, these are reasonable in matchups that aren't the mirror. So yeah. Other than that, cards like Manifestations of Mirror Guide, cards like the Weakest Link, cards like Amulet of Echoes especially have play into other matchups. Specifically into new, what you want to do is you want to get your Levels of Enlightenment and get your second Ten of Cheese out of your deck, because you don't want new to be playing them out of your Banner Stone. And instead you run cards like Manifestations, and you run more Chi in your deck so that you have a more powerful endgame. About the future of this deck, do I recommend playing this deck? Some reasons why I would or would not play this deck is I would play this deck if you have a local area that doesn't have a lot of Prism. I should talk about the other bad matchups other than the Enigma Mirror. Your other bad matchups are Prism, because Count Your Blessings does not block, and if they just throw Heralds at you, you will get hit with the Heralds, and then bad things will happen to you. And then additionally, I think Pistol Dash is a really bad matchup for you, because you can gain 100 life, and eventually they're just going to go 15, 15, 15 every turn without spending any cards from deck, and you're going to lose as well. And then additionally, I think Zen is probably a hard matchup. I haven't played it a ton, but I saw it at Armory the other day, and the uh, Enigma just got absolutely destroyed because Zen can present enough small breakpoints where Oasis Respite and Waning Vengeance aren't always able to get full value. And then additionally, Tiger, Shuko, Kakara Endgame is pretty good as well. Um, but I think Zen is gate kept out of the meta enough by New and Aurora that it probably won't be too much of an issue. Um, the only thing that uh, otherwise affects whether Count Your Blessings Enigma is a good deck in the future is probably the new -IO Armory deck that's coming out this weekend. Um, and so I have not played the matchup a ton, but I would imagine that it's not super great. They have a lot of Boom Grenades in their deck. Boom Grenade says, while this is out, if you hit with a Mechnologist attack action, destroy this and deal 4, 3, or 2 additional damage. The whole kind of idea of this deck is that, with the exception of Azalea, if you're playing against decks that don't have a lot of on-hits, and the nice thing about Azalea is a lot of the time you can either pay into Blood Rot, or Frailty doesn't really affect you because you're not attacking, or you can play around Inertia, although Inertia is still kind of annoying. You're able to gain life through their on-hits. But -IO, I think, additionally, will a lot of the time end the game by between turns 8 and 10, because that's also when they'll start to run out of deck. And so in those matchups, you might not even seal your Count Your Blessings by turn 8 or 10, even if every single time. This is another thing that I do with the deck. Often, if I'm in a matchup where I want to turbo out all 9 Count Your Blessings, every single time I play Favor Scene, every single time I play Sink Below, unless I have like a perfect hand, I know I can use all these cards very efficiently, I'm just going to opt to the bottom, or I can sink a card just to try and get me closer to Count Your Blessings, because if you think about playing all 3 Fates and all 3 Sinks, let's just even say you play 2 Sinks and 2 Fates, and you bottom or sink every time, that's a whole extra turn earlier, so rather than on turn 15, on turn 14, you'll hit all of your Count Your Blessings. And the sooner you hit all your Count Your Blessings, usually the sooner you get to a point where you're out of danger of dying. Because gaining 10 and then 11 and then 20 in one turn is really good. Um, uh, would I recommend you take this deck to your Proquest? I think it's really good right now. I think it's maybe in danger of getting banned because, in my opinion, it should be banned. It promotes not super fun gameplay, and it also promotes kind of, it doesn't really feel like Flesh and Blood. Um, at least uh, in like Guardian or something, if you try and fatigue and you go too low, you can get to the point where even though you have this really powerful weapon, like a Nothos or something like that, you're just not actually able to close the game. But in this, once you stabilize, there's kind of no way for your opponent to deal damage to you. You have plenty of blues for Arcane Barrier, you have Footsteps, which allows you to convert Chi into block. Your Chi additionally block, which is really good, and then it's really easy for you to just go like Sink Below in, a Sigil of Solace into my second cycle, and so even though I play all 9 Count Your Blessings, I still have sneaky life gain that you still have to worry about, etc. Um, but on the other hand, if they ban Count Your Blessings, it's not really that big of a deal. It's a rare. A playset will probably run you less than $5. Um, yeah. Um, uh, Other than that, um, this is the first video I've made for Flesh and Blood on the channel. Some other information about me: I've been playing Flesh and Blood for a little bit less than 2 years. I started on Dromai. I played Dromai for most of the tournaments until she allowed in April. And then since then, I've kind of been jumping around between decks. I played -IO at Pro Tour Amsterdam. I was one of 2 -IOs to day 2. And then just kind of been playing local events. Very excited for calling Portland. I'm also probably going to be calling Chicago. Um, and then we'll see about London, since there was already one international trip this year. Some thank yous. I want to say thank you to our to some people who borrowed me cards for this deck. Anthony, I appreciate you for borrowing me Phantasmal Footsteps. Uh, our friendly local judge Scott, I want to thank you for lending me Weakest Links. Um, it was very helpful. Additionally, it was all my opponents. They were very nice. They all, at the start of the match, a lot of the time I was like, hey, we might need to play a little bit quickly. They're all very understanding, and none of them were seemed too unhappy about losing to a bad life gain deck. Um, Other than that, I think there's not a whole lot else. I'll try to post some more videos, whether that be gameplay or deck techs or whatever. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to be playing for my remaining 3 Proquests, but um, if I play a weird deck, or even if I play a normal deck and I win, I'll probably make another video. Or even if I do well, I might just do a tournament report or something like that. Um, Although I am in high school, so if I'm busy and don't post any videos, that's probably why. Thank you everybody for watching. Um, yeah, that's about it.